What is up, everyone, and welcome to the Biblical Hitmen, folks. The Continental Round Table, the special y'all love so much. And I got a good group of guys here with me. Let's bring them out onto the stage. What is up, guys? Folks, we got Tim Constantine, Sixth Sensory Podcast. We've got Ben Baumgarten, End of the World News. And we have Clinton, right? Did I get that right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. All right. Just making sure. Sorry, I get
Like
into these
president.
and 6G Agenda podcast. So it's the first time he's been on the show, folks. So, make a warm welcome for him. And just good to see everyone. The chat is blowing up. This episode is going to be about the current events and the stuff popping off. And I'm interested to see what these guys think about it. But we'll just go around and we'll do plugs. We'll start with you, Clinton. Just a little bit about yourself and where the folks can support you.
Yeah. Andrew from 6G Agenda. Great to see you guys. Thanks for having me. Definitely. You can find me on all the platforms you find your podcast on at 6G Agenda. And we talk about what they want. And, a lot of it's about the current matrix system that's coming. And, I love having Ben on, and we take that biblical approach as well. So, yeah, it's great to see you guys.
Right on, man. Right on. And Ben, brother, where can everyone find your all your stuff?
Yeah, hey, thanks for having me on. I'm excited to talk with you, gentlemen. You can find me at End of the World News on Instagram, End of the World News, and my bad, End of the World's News, one word, on YouTube, and that's my weekly video podcast. And yeah, that's where you can find me, and on Spotify and iTunes. And once again, shout out to the chat. You got a live one always going on.
Yeah, man. Yeah, and Tim, what's up, brother, man?
What's up? What's up, fellas? What's up, chat? A lot of good energy at the kickoff of this thing. I'm really excited for this. Yeah, I'm Tim Constantine. My show is Sixth Sensory Podcast. I spell it out SIX. Best place to find me is Spotify, but I'm also on YouTube and Apple. I also have an Instagram and a Patreon, and would love to have you guys come over and join the conversation. I have shows out with all these fine gentlemen on the panel today. So if you enjoy these kind of topics, come on over. I'd love to have you.
Love it, man. Love it, dude. Yeah, guys, what is going on? I woke up the morning I was on shift, right? So I'm like kind of tired. I had a call at 3:00 in the morning. I'm grumpy. I'm getting coffee. And this guy comes into the station and he just he's got his phone of Trump just saying like, we're going to war and all this stuff, man. And I was just like, dang, kind of knew it was coming, right? My thing is just, I'm kind of weirded out with the things of, Chris Bledsoe, some other prophecies that have been kind of like talking about sometime in Easter or just sometime in 2026 between Israel and Iran. That's kind of like my side of things, but we'll just go around a round table. Ben, brother, what's your scope on this?
Well, Trump just came out and said it's going to be about 4 weeks that they're initially planning for. And the first thing I thought about was, man, that's plenty of time to blow up the Dome of the Rock. Whether it's one of the Iranian missiles or one of their missiles and they blame it on the Iranian missiles, I think this is all about manufacturing prophecy. And the one thing I did notice when it all kicked off and everybody on, social media was responding and they were choosing sides. But what I saw was fallen star worship on every single side. If you look at the logos, if you look at the symbols in their logos, and I'll just 3 that were involved, it's reference to these fallen gods. The first one we like to look at is the Israel flag, which is the possible star of Remphan. And if you know anything about the Bible, it refers to as angels or these rebellious B'nai Elohim as stars. And then you take a look at the logo of the Iranian intelligence service. And that's literally an 8-sided star of Ishtar with an all-seeing eye in the middle of it, which is a strange logo to have, being a predominantly Muslim country. But when you understand the intelligence agencies work for these Babylonian bloodlines that control these nations, it starts to make sense. And then you look at the CIA logo, and there's a 16-pointed star, which is actually called the Star of Virginia. And those 16 rays, what they mean are the 12 Olympian gods and the 4 elementals of the foundation of the universe. So within all of these logos, they're paying tribute to the gods that they serve. And I think the world is set up like the Game of Thrones, and each one of these groups worship same gods, different gods, and they are getting played. Their orders or their what they want to enact on this world is manifesting in our reality through these ancient bloodlines.
Steven, you're on mute.
Golly, sorry. Dude, there's just so much ancient stuff attached to this. You know, there's been some astrological events that have taken place too. You know, I saw something online where it was talking about basically, I think the 7 planets in the solar system got in a line, and they call it like a planetary parade of some sort or whatever. And Purim kind of lines up in the same time of this stuff. So there is a religious aspect of this that seems to be hiding behind the curtain. And you know, when I think of this, man, I'm like, I get that the letters of Albert Pike was forgery, you know, or whatever. He didn't necessarily write them, but what it talks about in the World War III event, right? That he's saying how it gets all laid out. It's the destruction of the Zionist state and the Islamic state, and it's the introduction of the Luciferian doctrine. And now I used to have like a perspective of like what that might have meant, but it's changing. And there's a difference between Satanism and Luciferianism, and they're extremely distinct from one another. Luciferianism really sounds like it sounds really good. It just sounds like maybe new agey more than anything, but it's not going to present itself like the Luciferian doctrine. Does you guys get what I mean by that? Like, it's not, you know, people are going to take it in a different way, very digestible way.
People have differentiated Satanism and Luciferianism, and I think that's a very funny thing, because what is Satanism? Anton LaVey says that he doesn't believe in actual Satan. He believes that man is God, right? That is Luciferianism. That is Gnosticism when materialized through, you know, the worship of like the demiurge, which is what Ben was talking about. So there is no real difference. I think, yeah, in most people's minds, they don't really have a full understanding of the two doctrines. It's really one. I think it's got, you know, it's a hydra. It's got many heads, you know, it's the same thing. But you know, yeah, I think you're right though, for sure. It's very wild.
Yeah. I mean, well, Ben said, right, like there could be even a possible destruction of was it the Dome of the Rock there, right? Is that what that's called? So that, if that does happen, it's so funny, you know, I was just talking to my mom about this or whatever earlier today. I was like, if that does happen, I mean, that's an easy demolition to come in and start the third temple. And what's fascinating about this whole thing is there is a UFO connection with World War III. And maybe that could be the Luciferian doctrine that was discussed in that letter, you know, because listening to Chris Bledsoe, his prophecy has been talking about for 5-6 years now, even maybe longer than that. It's just how long he's been going around shows. But he was saying that when the lady came to him in his dreams, he said that she gave him a vision like he was looking at a screen, like he could see it playing out right in front of him, and that there was missiles flying from Iran and Israel, and he saw them going through the sky. And then at the same moment, he started to see these orbs come out of the ocean, and it enlightened mankind, bringing awareness that we're not alone. So again, like I said earlier in the show, with the timing of stuff, right, with the UFO disclosure just being teased a little bit more, along with the timing of Chris Bledsoe's prophecy, and plus me, Tim, and you know, Ben, we've talked about this too, where this divine feminine energy or worship is, it's here, but it's like making itself reknown again, right? Like, so.
Oh yeah. There's a lot I could say about this. It seems like we're starting off with the occult connections here. I'm always good for that. I do want to say that the third temple, from what I understand, there is a group over there right now in Jerusalem who has everything ready to go for that. And I don't know that they're going to actually construct a building for that. I think it's going to be like the old days where it was a tent that can be put up and taken down. apparently they have all those pieces already made. They just need to put them together like you would a tent. So that's one idea of what I think might happen with that. I guess it would be a matter of demolition as well. It's like, well, you're going to tear one down and then clear off the platform and build another one. So just something to think about there. But yeah, you've got the 7-planet alignment this weekend I was reading about. So you got these astrological events tied in, at the bloodline connections, the occult connections, and in the title we got, what is it, World War III and order out of chaos there. I think on the war front of this is about land. This is a giant land grab is a part of this. I think that's what you get with Venezuela, Iran. That's what we're seeing over there. These places have wild amounts of raw earth minerals, critical minerals, and very, it's an asset. It's an asset to them. So in Greenland too. So I put Greenland up there. There's 3 of those. And with Greenland, getting back to the occult connection, the mystical name for Greenland is Thule or Thule, however you want to pronounce it. And let's not forget Trump. He's got a relative named Frederick Trump who came over from, I think it was Sweden. It was from Scandinavia. So he has bloodline activity going on big time. Trump does. And there's a Norse vein to that. And deep in Norse mythology and just history, like you could find historical evidence of this as well. They called the area that Greenland is Thule. The Nazis, of course, came along and they tapped into that as well. So there is something always deeper right beneath the surface with these land grabs, especially in this case with Greenland. So beyond that, I think, and I'll wrap it up with this, I think that the Maduro op went very well for them, made them think that it's going to be easy to remove leaders. They're on a high from that. I think that also factors into this recent cartel boss thing. So ethics aside, the scariest part of this for me is that they're driven by occult forces and that there is a 1984 undercurrent. And I'm talking about AI as surveillance. And AI CEOs have stepped down right after that Maduro mission with Venezuela as well. So something happened that scared these guys into retirement. So we need to keep an eye on all of that.
Real quick, you said something interesting with how well the Venezuela op as far as kidnapping Maduro went. And it's an interesting statistic I actually read today. It's been 47 years since they actually installed the Ayatollah. And 47 is the degrees on the Masonic compass. The parliament building in Iran is a pyramid with 33 windows on it. Within the Israeli judicial building, there is a pyramid right in the center of that thing. So this has the occult written all over it. It's almost like it's part of their script that they are fulfilling right now.
Yeah, and Stephen, you were talking about Bledsoe. I'm not, I haven't listened to him much, but there's one thing that he was talking about. He was talking about the Regulus C star. It's this red star or something like that. And when the Sphinx gazes upon that star at a certain time of the day, that's whenever new knowledge will come onto the earth, right? Well, that is actually the sign. If you go look at the symbol for the Space Counterintelligence or Space Intelligence Center, they have like it's like an arrow that has the Sphinx in it looking at a star. And I think that's very interesting, with Space Force kind of being reopened by Trump, him being the one to kind of want to come disclose, UFOs later and kind of being the one to bring in what we're all talking about, this beast system, Antichrist, whatever you want to call it. And, it seems to be the culmination of the Andania plan, which was also another fake thing, right? Yeah, there it is. Yeah. See that? So why would they use that symbol? You know what I mean? I mean, Bledsoe, I think, is a CIA op. So I mean, I think, he would know, right? He would know.
Yeah.
And so there you go. You know what I mean? And so, anyway, so I think that, with that, and then you have the alignment of those planets happen the day that they went into Iran the other day on the 28th of February. You also have on the 3rd, 3-3 is what we're talking about with that eclipse, right? Well, something interesting that I saw was, you know, I mean, I've talked about this for a while. Trump was born 3 months, which, you know, three, the symbol for Trinity, you know, for creation, 3 months after the Babylon workings was done on a blood moon eclipse. And, you know, they were trying to bring in the moon child. And a lot of people think that it's a woman that they were trying to bring in. The Scarlet Woman was actually who we found to bring in the moon child and do the ritual with. So people get that story kind of mixed up. So we don't know who the moon child was. We don't know how it could have been Trump, what that is, what that has to do with. I couldn't explain that to you. I do know that Jack Parsons worked at JPL and Trump's uncle brought Tesla stuff to JPL. So there could be some unverified connection there. I mean, clearly there's something, right? So you have this weird thing going on with that. And then this eclipse that's coming up, they said that there's a painting in Bank of America somewhere that has Trump. I guess there's like red on his eye in the painting. So they think he's like getting hurt under an eclipse. And they think it's the eclipse for Virgo. And if you go look at this picture, I could share it if you want. I have the post that they posted. But if you look at the picture, there's a ballerina dancing in a glass case, right? So I watched the opening ceremony for the Olympics the other day. And a lot of people talked about the lighting of the torches, the whole masculine, feminine, alchemical symbology that went on under the Arch of Ball. But they really missed the ballerina dance with the Cupid dance with everybody in these glass cases. And what we're seeing there is the dancing of the stars. And what that is indicating this celestial event that's coming up now with this eclipse, because you have Virgo that's going to be in this eclipse coming up this week, and it's in Pisces. Pisces is Cupid. So Cupid is the main star of this little dance in the Olympic ceremony. And it seems like they're doing some kind of manifestation ritual, dance, play, whatever you want to call it, for this celestial event that's coming. I could show it to you in a minute, but I'd love to see what you think about that.
Muted, brother.
Bring it up. Bring it up. I'll share it with the audience. I'm over here repeating myself.
You're good.
Yeah, no, all that's crazy, man. What do you guys think?
Well, it's definitely a ritual. Oh, go on, Tim, if you want to go. I just
Okay, I'll keep it quick then. I was going to let you go, but I mean, I'm just going to comment on a couple of things here. The Space Force logo, of course, it's interesting. I think with the Sphinx, they're including a nod to Egyptian cosmology, which is very old, very much borrows from the Sumerian cosmology, which is probably some of the oldest occult cosmology out there. But Egyptians definitely borrowed heavily from them. Then, of course, you got the 8-pointed star in that. You know, that might signify Regulus. That might also be, it's traditionally associated with Ishtar, if we're going to talk about divine feminine. So I think there's all sorts of symbolism in that. And then I think it's interesting about the Babylon working ending and then Trump being born. Is that what I heard? Right? Like,
yeah, he was born 3 months after. Yeah.
Okay, so it would have been okay. So the Babylon working officially starts in 46, and
47, yeah.
Yeah, and it works its way into 1947, which is also interesting. If you look into the war coin, it's without getting too in the weeds here, they're going to rely heavily on tokenization, I think, to bring in the one world currency. BlackRock, Larry Fink, they're all looking at options for that. And part of, I think, what they'll be using is this reserve asset, Western asset reserve coin called the war coin. That goes back to Franklin Templeton. That's the name of the firm. Franklin Templeton, the firm, was started by Rupert Johnson Sr. in 1947. So again, everything seems to go back to this year, 1947, where I believe we stepped through a doorway, we crossed the threshold, and I mean, you look at Ray Kurzweil's graph of technology. I'll bring that up again. It starts with the Nazis in the 40s, and it's a perfect incline up till 2026 now. And there's just, I mean, we could just keep going with the 1947 ties, so I'll just leave it at that.
I'm just curious. When was, I think 1947 or 1948 is a very significant year for the creation or the recreation of Israel, if I'm not correct. Right. So that came right after the Babylon workings.
Right.
And you had,
they were having the talks in 46 and 47 to make it a state. I think they actually made it a state in 48, but all the talks were in 1947.
Yeah, I wonder if they opened some type of portal up. And as you know, he's the godfather of modern rockery and a known Thelemus, right? He was part of that church, practicing sex magic. And then you had, who was his buddy that ran Scientology or whatever?
L. Ron Hubbard. Yeah.
L. Ron Hubbard. Isn't that interesting
He
too,
did
that
that
we're
with him.
performing these sex magic rituals and they're major players within rocketry, science, which I think is all divinely inspired. I think a lot of this technological revolution is channeling from the ether, whether it's from demonic entities or whatnot. And yeah, I think it's super interesting. As far as a ritual goes, yeah, they have a past history, especially in all the Olympic ceremonies, of making one big ritual out of it. Everybody loves that one where they kind of predicted COVID was on its way. And I'm with you. I think this one was definitely used for one of those reasons as well.
Can I show you? Give a little
Yeah, go ahead.
visual for
Sorry.
everybody. Here,
Yeah,
I'll show you this.
Perfect. Let's do it.
Cool, you got it. Okay, so this is the painting. I guess it's in a Bank of America or something. So this is supposed to be Trump, I guess, right here. I'm not entirely sure how they got that. How they got that was Trump. And I guess that's red, right? That, you know, it's an artist, so it's an artist view of like him getting hurt, I guess is what they're trying to say. I don't really sign on to the idea that Trump's going to get hurt under, you know, and die on the same day as this eclipse, but that's what they're trying to espouse. What I'm looking at is more this chick right here under this eclipse, and it's supposed to represent Virgo, the moon. And then I see, let me show you this. How do I get out of here? Okay.
Virgo, by the way, is Estrella. That is another, it ties in with the divine feminine for sure.
It does. Okay. And then so you have, I believe this is Cupid dancing with Virgo. In these glass boxes, the same kind of style as you see in that painting. And then you got these white dots. These were like stars that were kind of dancing on the ground while they were dancing. So this is kind of what happened in the opening ceremony in the very beginning. And then a little bit later, you had depictions of like the Renaissance, what seemed to be like, you know, like Renaissance times. And then all of a sudden you had black gold iconography, like techno music come in and start mixing with the Renaissance people that were dancing. And I believe that was supposed to symbolize this idea of this new Renaissance that's really based in technocratic AI. That's why they had the technological music on, the whole techno music. And so it's it was very telling whenever you watch it.
The Constitution also was signed in September 17th under Virgo. So there's a lot more to, when you see Virgo, there's some deep, deep ties to this country in general. And they were drawing heavily from, the founding fathers were drawing heavily from Virgil, the Roman, who would often write about her. And just all these other threads. There's old commemoration art that shows Virgo or Estrella holding a picture of George Washington even. So this was very much intertwined with the beginnings of our country.
Is Venus a equivalent to Estrella or Virgo? Is that like the same planet?
Yeah.
Because that would be what they say, Lucifer, the morning star, Venus.
Right.
You know, and I think we talked about this whenever I was on your show about that. The whole idea, Washington said that they set up the whole pentagram and the whole, you know, layout based off of the way that the precession of Venus does in the sky, which is a pentagram. It happens to make a star if you were to like watch the precession throughout the year. So yeah.
Well, I think Bledsoe also said it. He just didn't like know it in his interview when he said this one thing specifically, because this is something that I picked up. He said that the star he was identifying is always usually blue, but this time it's red. And so the you know, Venus is blue. It's a blue star. And so yeah, it's I was like, that's gotta be it. I mean, they've worshipped this star for a very long time, right? Like and that's what that means, wisdom, knowledge, right? Like and that's what he talks about, that there's going to be this injection of a new knowledge. But I think it's going to come from us, the people. I think something's going to shock society so much that then everyone's going to start coming together, just like they did at the Tower of Babel. You're going to start to see them go and question things, and they're going to come together and have meetings, and they're going to go, you know what? We need to come together. Let us be scattered again, like we once were. Like this is you know, this is the same thing happening. In my opinion, I can see like when this new knowledge comes, this will be the unity and the balancing of humanity of some sort.
Yeah, it's kind of like the false great awakening that's happening now. I mean, we're getting all this knowledge, all the truth of the corruption is coming to the surface. You have these wars that are going on that nobody wants. And I think that's to usher in to this new system that they're trying to build. And I don't know how far along we are. We'll have to see how this Iran-Israel thing plays out. We could be, you know, still years away. But it definitely feels like with the release of the Epstein files, this war that's going on, public perception is starting to change, and we're kind of grouping together to overthrow this evil. But if you ask me, we're going to overthrow this evil if we are to our new AI overlords, right? Because for you to accept the new system, you have to become disillusioned with the old system. So every person that's still alive is going to be faced with the proposition: would you rather have a government, a world government ran by this pedophiles, or do you want AI? And this AI is the good AI. And I guess the joke's on all of us because the pedophiles own the AI. But I think ultimately that's what they're leading us to.
The joke is on us, yeah. I think actually, yeah, that's kind of something that I was going to kind of get into on my show here coming up, is just the idea that conspiracies, they're going to expose, the guys exposing the deep state or the deep state, and then they're going to give you and serve you this new world order. And it's crazy because and it's going to be the savior system, right? But it's crazy because I see people saying that Trump is destabilizing globalism. All I see him doing right now is building up the foundation for globalism. I don't see how they see it the other way. It wasn't a full globalist world up until maybe like right now, I would say, where just the kind of style that I see, like just the empirical nature of our country, just, you know, this kind of globalization of the WHO and everything else since COVID, just all these things together. Yeah, I just don't see how he's destabilizing the globalists. I think it's the opposite. And I think any kind of independent nation that isn't signing up for CBDCs, AI, etc., they're going to have an issue, you know, and we're going to strong arm him into it. As he said with the AI people, I think that, you know, clearly there's got to be this, just like with Anthropic, there has to be this AI that accepts the moral code of the government running it, which I think is going to be this one world government that wants full use of everything, no holds barred. I want to see it all. And so any kind of moral code, if you have it, you're going to be running right out of that company, because you're going to realize how deep as shit you're in. I mean, you have global governance that is, you know, letting you know, if you don't do this, we're going to just shut down your whole company, you know? So I'd be, yeah, I think that's what we're seeing right now.
Yeah.
Hey, go ahead, Tim. Go ahead.
The path to globalism was paved in the 1940s. I just want to say that. I mean, you know, you look at groups like the EU and some World Economic Forum, and they were basing their whole infrastructure off of papers and studies that were done by the Nazis. So, in the occult layer beneath that would be, if there was a plan by dark entities to usher in things like globalism and one world governance and all the NWO stuff, that was, I see that as being started by World War II in the 40s and sort of finalized in 1947. And, you know, talking about occult portals and Jack Parsons, right? He goes out, does this ritual in the desert, and everything they said, he said in his diary that a entity came to him and said, in 9 months or 9 moons, this will be released on the world. This thing that you brought about by ritual will be released on the world. And exactly 9 months from that moment was January 1947. Perfectly, the beginning of 1947. And here, you know, I looked because I thought it'd be interesting to throw this in. You had in 47, you had the creation of the CIA. You had these Israel talks that would ultimately establish as a nation. You had parts of the Book of Enoch being found in the Dead Sea Scrolls, which is a book that tells us early on that this is meant for a generation that is to come. This is it talks about all these the dark entities and the fallen angels and the Nephilim and all that. It's as if that book was reintroduced to the lexicon so that Christians today could have sort of an idea of what's really going on in this realm and the spiritual war that's here. You also had in 47 the creation of the Air Force, Roswell, of course. You had the National Security Act that Truman signed that really created this neocon resurgence, what we're seeing right now of this neocon plan that's being hashed out. All that was created by the National Security Act, and
Trump
I
wouldn't have
think
been able to do. Trump wouldn't have been able to do what he did with Iran or Venezuela or anywhere without the National Security Act, because he keeps saying, people are like, why didn't he go to Congress? Because he said it's a matter of national security. That's all you have to say, and you could do whatever you want. Same thing with COVID. Why we have to sit at home? National security. It was an emergency. And so, sorry, but that's why he could supersede our Constitution as much as he wants, because we have national security agreements. I wasn't where it started in 1947, but I know that Nixon and everybody else made so many agreements that it made it like a matter of just, we could just choose when we want to throw your Constitution out the window and call it an emergency after Nixon. But that's crazy that it started in 47.
Yeah. It's the behind the scenes sort of magic that they laid out to play world dictator and police the globe.
They're doing it. You're on silent, Stephen.
You're on mute, brother. I'll let
I need
you
a foot
take
pedal. I need a foot pedal.
Yeah.
Right? Come on. Get a little foot pedal here. A little get up. Come on now. What's up, everybody in the chat, folks? We got 113 people in here. It's an awesome show. I hope you guys are enjoying it. I think we're killing it. Listen, when you mentioned something about the star being red and all this stuff, it made me think of the Dubai. This is the Dubai New Year's Eve event, which it's ridiculous. It's insane. By the way, what they were able to do here. I want to show you guys something. I don't know if you saw this. I think I shared this with Tim or something through a text message a while ago, but I want you guys to see what I see. There she is. She's right there. You see her in the left corner of the screen?
Where?
In the left
corner.
Oh,
you're talking about the star. The star. That's crazy.
It's not a well, you have
the
a bunch
planet.
of things
The
going
planet.
on.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, that you have the moon right here, right?
Oh, the moon. Okay.
You had a DNA strand explode around the tower just as it went off. But right here is important, bro. This is, to me, like the whore of Babylon, the harlot that rides the beast, wearing, red and all this stuff, the star being red or whatever. But this is a play that they're doing down on the ground level, right at the base of the building. And the play is pretty kind of wild as well. This is like another thing that we see in like the Olympics and all this other kind of stuff. But this year being a new year, to gaining knowledge, I thought it's showing a bunch of symbolism here. There's a few people that actually break this down really good on YouTube. But the moon being right here, the divine feminine rising, all this kind of stuff. Later in this, it also kind of goes through like a chakra system where it starts to explode from the bottom all the way till it gets to the crown chakra, and then it does a super explosion. But
yeah. Sorry, no, I was laughing. Yeah. Somebody said yay tag the building too. I love that. It's funny. It said yay on it. Somebody anyway.
But my point is like there's this divine feminine aspect of the Antichrist, or who's to be this third Maitreya that comes and leads us down the road to Shambhala, right? So my thing is I even saw some interesting statues that are on the side of St. John's Cathedral I don't know if you guys have ever seen any of these statues, but they're like kind of prophetic. They show the collapsing of the towers. They show the destruction of a bunch of other things in these statues that are at the base of like these gods. Okay, and I think there might be 12 or 13 of them that go like around the side of the building, but one of them actually shows the birthing of a baby, but it's like the head is coming out of like an egg from the movie Alien. Okay, it's wild, it's trippy. If anyone can find this, I can't find it. Very, it's not easy to find, but it's there. And underneath it, you have a ram with two horns. And then on another statue, you actually have the Kabbalah tree with a Jewish star right in the middle of it. And I don't know. Again, maybe the new knowledge is going to be more of a new religion than spiritual enlightenment, and maybe old Eastern religion is the workings of it, or the theology of it, the philosophy of it is going to be a part of all of this, in my opinion. I don't know. I kind of see it coming, especially with you got a bunch of also you've got what's I mean, being really popular now, where people are astral projecting on their own, and you've got people learning how to access the dark matter of the brain and access these hidden possibilities, kind of like there's this potential in people, right? So and I think that lines in with the Gnostic perspective of the divine spark, and the fact that, you know, you have this power in you, right? And you can access it through the gaining of knowledge. So I don't really know what it's to look like, but I find it all interesting.
You know, speaking of superpowers, it is interesting that Candace Owens is talking about how she and Charlie both had these natural superpowers, and they were tested on. And Charlie thought he was an alien from another planet, or no, she thought she was an alien from another planet, and he was a time traveler. You know, it is being brought to the psyche, and like you said, all of a sudden, Bledsoe is all over the place. And is he a Fed? Is he a Fed? I hadn't thought about that, but probably is. So yeah, it's definitely coming up in the public consciousness. They want us to see this, and it's definitely being incorporated in this Mystery Babylon religion, however that works out, after they collapse the entire system.
It's like there might be also like one massive tulpa effect going on, where it's just so much disinformation, right? Or just so much bullcrap that people are then choosing to believe, and then through manifestation, these things happen, right? So like this happened with the Slender Man, right, in 2011, and this happens with I mean, it's a occult practice, number one, because it's ancient, it's Tibetan, right? These Buddhists, they would actually, you know, bring entities into their room and into their I mean, right next to them in the seventh kind through the tulpa effect. And so that's maybe that's what's going on.
If there's a like you're suggesting, some sort of a tulpa effect happening here, it's certainly being brought in by the old occult religion, the rites and rituals. And you know, you go back to this New Year's celebration that you showed from Dubai. Interesting that these buildings are getting blown up in Dubai right now, or bombed. Some of them are. I've seen some footage. Who knows if it's real or whatever. But my point is like, what better place to do a ritual than these events, like that New Year celebration? You have all these eyes around the world on this event. It's easy. It's too easy to just slip stuff in. And I read a blog post by Chris Knowles once, where he was breaking down how the rocket launches also, they use those as rituals. They'll bring presidents out and tell them, hey, you stand here. Stand on this like astrological line, and everything around the rocket launches has symbolism, and it's a giant ritual. And we saw that, I think, with the what I call the Ostara Blue Origin flight. Katy Perry acting as Ostara, the ancient Norse goddess of spring, another version of Ishtar. I think we see it in her 2015 halftime show, where she obviously plays Ishtar. She's literally acting out scenes from the old ancient reliefs of Ishtar, riding the beast, being associated with the lion. And of course, right around that time that this 2015 halftime show happens, all these UFOs are being recorded by the U.S. Navy. the gimbal footage, the go fast footage. It's like, was that I've posited the question, was that a ritual to help bring in disclosure? Because with what we're seeing, like even going back to 1947, there's always a plan here. It's just, can we sort of decode it and figure out what it is? But there's always a plan. And I think that the rituals just help serve the plan. And I think what we're seeing right now, in large part, this is a continuation of a much older neocon plan that we saw Bush's enacting. I think Obama tapped into it too, to effectively execute regime change in the Middle East. So let's not forget that there's a plan, and they used the rituals for the plan. And let's not forget about General Wesley Clark, who about 10 days after 9/11 went to the Pentagon and said, he was told, we've made a decision. We're going to go to war with Iraq. What? Yeah. The Secretary of Defense, they sent me this memo from their office. And the memo is about how we're going to take out 7 different countries in 5 years, starting with Iraq, then Syria, then Lebanon, then Libya and Somalia, Sudan, and then we're going to finish it off with Iran. That was General Wesley Clark. Direct quote. You guys can find it. So this is a continuation of that much older plan that they're just now getting around to finalizing, I think.
And 7, very hermetic number. Netanyahu, we're on a 7-front war right now.
7 planets in alignment
and
this weekend.
This is why I'm very skeptical about anything that has to do with channeling, mediumship, telepathy, telekinesis. I understand that I have discernment, and I understand that I may have some instincts where maybe I feel like something's coming before it's coming. That's about as far as it goes. I feel like when you start getting deeper into that, you're falling into that Luciferian philosophy, because you have to remember that they call their God the architect of the universe. That means he creates nothing, but he can tell you how everything works. He could tell you how it's built. He could tell you the chemistry in it. He could tell you the energies, the frequencies, everything. He could teach you everything about creation, but he's not the creator. And so when you fall into the Luciferian philosophy, you start thinking, oh, I am a master of this world. I'm a master of this or that, because you see some things come true, or you see these universal principles that you're enacting upon, to where you kind of prove your own self, right. I always say beware of that, because I don't know. I just think that's how they get you. I don't know.
No, that's a good point. It's kind of like just with everything, the Epstein stuff, the war and the psychological, maybe deception that's going on, but also the psychological abuse that's being done to us through this. And a lot of it comes from our phones, but there's a guy, Michael Aquino, right? Like old, military guy. And he wrote a book, Mind War. And basically, he's a Satanist, by the way. We're for the Satanic Temple and all of this, okay? But
don't get me started on this.
Well,
guy,
I was gonna say you did a show on this or something. I saw you guys talked about this or something. I saw this, and well, in the book though, he focuses on creating more channels, or that basically how to traumatize certain societies to then, in some sort of way, corral them to make certain decisions, and you can control populations like this and stuff. And who knows if 5G is doing that, or 6G down the future, who knows what that's going to do. But I think that we're going through a lot of trauma right now. And what's funny about this is even Epstein was funding a lot of networks to figure out why when people, they have strokes, right? They go through certain traumatic brain injuries, but when they come out of these brain injuries, they actually start to develop hidden possibilities, or even just new potentials that they never thought that they had, that now the brain is able to access or whatever. So he funded a lot of things to cause a lot of psychological trauma, because it's a part of Axiom of Maria, and it's a part of this occult alchemical process of ascending yourself consciously, and opening yourself up to more channels of information, right? Which is this Akasha and all this kind of stuff. But I think is that what's happening? Like, are we being psychologically, is this psychological induced trauma to us? We can't, our subconscious is the only thing that's being affected, not us really. It's our subconscious. And so is this going to aid more of the agenda? You know, is this going to help the tulpa effect? Is this going to, right? Like that's just kind of like too what popped in my mind.
Well, you know, it's interesting. And maybe Andrew can pick up more on this. Didn't the guy that worked with Michael Aquino to write that book is actually working at TPUSA right now?
Well, exactly. And so when we're talking about Candace Owens, we're talking about Erica Kirk, the big, the big, what do we call it? Mystery murder show that's going on about, Erica Kirk and Charlie and Candace Owens, who are all like best buddies. And come on, man, these guys are all paid to do this shit. And by the way, I did notice, I did say, I do believe that we get dreams given to us from divine. I do believe we get visions. I believe that we get some instincts. I would put that under the umbrella of instinctual natures. And I think we get discernment, but that's as far as I take it. I'm not going to use crystals or various things to try to manifest what is hidden the way they are under certain celestial events, etc. And so, I just want to comment on that with the listener. They were saying that Jesus brings you visions through your dreams, and I agree.
Yeah, and you know what's funny too is I saw this in the Disclosure Day trailer, and we did a breakdown of it on audio only because we actually really did go through the whole trailer and we took an hour and a half on it. But it seems like technology is going to play a part with what we're talking about. It's going to play something to where it's going to help kickstart you, or it's going to help be a gateway process for us or something. And in the trailer, the only way that they're able to let the entities take over their consciousness is through the technology. It's, and there's a couple of things playing there where you've got like this hidden government that's trying to, find this technology. And then you've got the other side where there's the whistleblower who stole it and he's on the run with it. But I just think that's more programming for humanity to understand and come to the agreement that, hey, yeah, technology is going to help us. It's going to do something for us in the future.
Well, I mean, I think you see that with the narrow implants and trying to hook us up to the AI digital god. And when they actually roll that out full stop over all of humanity, I wonder at that point, are we going to have some type of sentient AI? Or at least in their AI, in their minds, and sentient AI. So you're really letting in some type of digital demon that can give you all this knowledge that you want in an attempt, I've always said this, to replace the Holy Spirit, the Spirit of truth. That's what they want. They want to counterfeit God. They want to counterfeit every aspect of God. They want to replace God, because although their plans are materializing in this 3D reality, I think at the fundamental level, this is a spiritual battle in a realm that we can't see between opposing forces. One side, which would be God, Jesus, and the loyal angels, versus Satan and these fallen gods. And one side wants you to choose God. The other side wants you to choose the counterfeit God, them. And I think that's what we're seeing play out.
Yeah. If I may, so this is all reminding me, dude, I've been watching Altered Carbon, right? Fucking spot on with everything we're talking about. So if you watch that show, it's kind of crazy. First of all, we're carbon beings, altered carbon, the beast 666. I believe that has something to do with the altering of carbon, maybe, because since everybody likes to point out the idea that carbon has something to do with 666, I guess. There's also this argument that it's Israel, but whatever, we could get into that later. But in altered carbon, they have to, in order to spin you up into this little disc and put you inside of what they call a skin, which is a body, they have to remove your, what do they call it? Decode, religious decoding. So they called it like decoding your religious code or something. So in other words, you have a spirit, a soul that they had to get rid of, detach from your consciousness so they could keep your consciousness separate from your soul and put that into this little disc that can now live forever through multiple bodies, right? Essentially, obviously, it's not going to be that literal, but I think that's kind of what we're talking about, to the sense of they have to remove your soul from your consciousness in order to do this transhuman singularity that they plan to do. And also another thing in that show that's very important, yourself is only that consciousness, that little disc. When you put it inside of a vessel, that vessel, if somebody happened to buy you that body, well, that's theirs. You're pretty much a servant now. When you put Neuralink into your body, they own the property that's inside of you. So how much of you is you if they own your thoughts? Because they own the thing that's helping you get the thoughts. So now they own your thoughts. So how do you own your own consciousness at that point? You don't.
Yeah, you lose the
so
agency. Yeah.
it's Black Mirror, man. It's every sci-fi film we've ever witnessed come to life. And I mean, we could
Yeah.
get into pre-programming with that. I think a lot of that. I think you got these rollout years. 1968 would be a good example of one where you had what is it with the black monolith? Arthur C. Clarke's novel that features an AI in 1968 and that sort of thing. It's all been brought to life. And the Germans had an altered carbon sort of substance they were working with too. And I just want to comment on Aquino too for a second, because all this does seem to go back to occultists and occultist plans and their rituals and things that they're wanting to usher in and working with the old gods. And Aquino was tapping into a continuation of an older plan, I think, started by the German occultists. And he was going out to Wewelsburg Castle, which is Himmler's castle. Of course, I think we know now, one of the things I'm looking into is how that castle, as was Berlin, was built on an old ancient goddess cult, a goddess temple. And he was working on plans for his Temple of Set there. And what it was the Temple of Set had a special faction within it, almost like a sleeper cell, that was called the Order of the Trapezoid. And he was getting downloads and I guess like a channeled experience in the basement of Wewelsburg and getting ideas to establish his Order of the Trapezoid. So when I see modern political movements tracing back to Aquino, again, I'm forced to kind of say, look, it's a part of this older plan, like it always is. It's just there for the decoding. And I think the trick here is that to bring in the Egyptian iconography that we're seeing in the Space Force logos and some of the other things we've shown on the podcast, that goes back to Egyptian cosmology and Egyptian priestcraft, which is sort of like a manual on how to control large swaths of the population. Manly P. Hall talks about it as well. The Egyptian priestcraft knew how to put people under a spell, essentially, and use MK Ultra type mind tactics to get big groups of people to think the same way. Of course, we saw the Germans doing that with propaganda in the 40s. And I just think that part of the trick right now is the two-party system. And I mean, I don't want to go there, but I think I kind of have to go there because I think we're faced with the hard truth right now, being that the two-party system has long failed us. And because, I mean, let's face it, if you voted for any of the presidents who've been in office in the last 20 years, you made a mistake. They all so far have done us wrong. When are we going to learn from those mistakes? So unfortunately, in 10 years, I think we're going to look back and say, oh, whoops, we did it again. We allowed this plan to continue to hash its way out. So I'll end it with that before I get too political.
Whenever you look at Hermetic philosophy, they talk about this idea of a pendulum, right? The pendulum swinging, this idea of duality, which is kind of what you're speaking about, the left and right dichotomy, black and white, the checkerboard, of course, black and white. And the reason why, it's so funny. Whenever you read more into like Hermetic philosophy, you can really understand what they're doing to society a lot better. They talk about, the more that you go to this side, the more it's going to swing back to this side. This whole idea of like the far left trans movement we had. Now we have this far right nationalist, possible overly Christian nationalist movement. They'll throw out the Constitution in the name of God, right? And so that's the kind of swinging back, and they're utilizing that against us because they understand that that's how it works, right? Logic versus emotion, left versus right, right? And, they even have this saying where they say that truth is always crucified between two contradictions of thieves of contradiction, which is really just like two lies, two contradictory lies, two things that aren't real, that, truth is in the middle. It's not even found in either of those. That's what we see, I feel like, on a daily basis. You know what I mean? And I think it's Hermetic philosophy used against us every day. So the more you understand it, the more you can kind of protect yourself from it. I wouldn't, say practice it, but, definitely protecting yourself from it by understanding it.
I'll tell you what.
Yeah, it's great. It's great to exist. It's great to exist in a political no man's land. I find. Yeah. At first, it looks like a big scary desert and it looks desolate, but once you get here, it's like, oh, there's the water's warm. You know, we got hot springs and everything. Like if I was to follow the metaphor all the way down with that, but I think it's a good place to be. I think that's where the truth lies. Sorry, Ben.
Oh,
Go
no.
ahead,
I
brother.
mean, you can incorporate that. What I was thinking is we're talking about all these different events. We're talking about all these different occult groups separated by countries and lands, separated by generations, but they all kind of keep coming to the same agenda. And that leads me to believe that there's a unified force that we can't see that is kind of the architect of that agenda. And I think that goes to the spiritual realm. I think it materializes, like I said. And it's just interesting how, like, the Zionists worked with the Nazis, or, you know, the left and the right, but it's the same agenda.
Yes.
I think there's just a demonic influence over all of this stuff. And that's why it's so unifying, despite coming from different areas and different generations. And that's how it builds upon it.
Exactly.
Yeah, real quick. Shout out to Saved by Grace Through Faith 7. Thank you so much for your endless hours of research and dedication to truth. It is so beautiful to see biblical hitmen. I love it. Blessings to you and your family, and to you as well. Thank you so much for the super chat. Much love. All
Shout out.
right. Yeah, shout out. Love it. Makes me think of my streamer days when I used to just go crazy, you know.
Hell
No, but thank you so much. It's awesome, and I'm glad everyone's enjoying the show. We got 136 in here. Let's go. And we're 140 now. That bumped up. Well, hey, let's get into you know, what do you think is going to happen in the next 3 months? I'll go with you. I'll go with you, Ben. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I'll tell you one thing. I definitely think it seems they appear to accelerate the plan. Because, you know, there's a lot of people that think we're still in the birth pangs. That's going to lead up to the last 7 years. Gary Wayne thinks that's quite a bit away. I don't know, but with the release of this Epstein stuff, with what's going on in Israel and Iran, this is kind of like the final showdown in the Middle East that they've been promoting for the past 20 or 30 years. So I think it's definitely going to roll through, and we'll see how long this lasts for. It could go either way. It could be a smooth transition, a new, you know, bring back the Shah, or it could be really messy, and this could explode all over the place, which will ultimately, I think, lead up to when all the nations are going to turn on Israel, and ultimately all the nations after that are going to turn on the Abrahamic faith, because I think that it will collapse the entire system, and that's, you know, gives the perfect chance for someone like the Antichrist to come and say, hey, look what the God of the Bible did. Look what all the religions did. It's the God of the Bible's fault. We need to get rid of them. Then cue the aliens coming back, which we know are these rebellious sons of God. And I think they're going to incorporate this mystery religion. So I don't know how long this is going to take, but it definitely feels like they've accelerated this, and we'll have to see where it goes.
Yeah. What about you, 6G? What do you think?
Yeah, you know, I second that. You know, I think that, you know, I wouldn't say World War III. You know what I mean? I wouldn't go that far. You know, I see that they're stoking, and they pump fake World War III a lot. You know, it's weird to pump fake. It's kind of weird to do that. It happens so often.
that's
It's like,
true.
okay, this is kind of getting a little weird, man. You know, and I do think that we're definitely in the end stages. They don't accelerate the exposing of their deep state, you know, fuckery like they have been with Epstein and everything, unless they have a plan afterwards, you know, and what's going to come. And again, yeah, it's that cult theocracy. I think that it's odd to see it all happen at once. I can't imagine that people's minds and their whole perceptions change fast enough for them to incorporate this whole one world government, religion, etc., all in a matter of like a couple years. I think that it'll take a couple more very drastic events. So that leads me into maybe World War III, because it really would take, I mean, like Bill Cooper says, you know, Israel was created to bring about, you know, Armageddon, that brings about, you know, the beast, the one world government, everything else. And I think that, you know, he said many times that it's going to take us kicking and screaming to bring in that one world government, probably just screaming out, please, just, you know, let's just end the wars, whatever it takes. And I think that that's a possibility on the table for sure.
Yeah.
Can I add one more caveat?
Go ahead, buddy.
Sorry. One
You're
more
good, bud.
caveat. As far as World War III, we still have to pull in China into the mix. And they've been talking about going into Taiwan in 2026. So I've often wondered if that's going to be the final pressure point. Maybe they keep this war going on in the Middle East. You still got Ukraine going on. I wonder if China going into Taiwan might be that final pressure point to explode the whole thing. So whenever that happens, I think, that's when we really got to start praying.
I think that China is going to be pulled in by possibly in reaction to something the U.S. does. And I think right now I'm seeing that probably being tied in with the Golden Dome thing. But before I get ahead of myself here in the next 3 months, I think you said, Stephen, I just think more of a build up to power, or money and power. That seems to be the modus operandi of this administration. I see this as a big land grab for them. I think I said before, land grab for assets. They're going to attempt to turn around, I think. And we're talking about land grabs. I'm talking about, again, Venezuela, potentially Greenland, and then, of course, now Iran. I think they're going to turn around and try to double those profits on these land grabs by using tokenization. They're really putting a lot of talk into this behind the scenes. BlackRock is, Trump is, all the what have I been calling them lately? The neo robber barons in the tech world. So they're looking at this stuff like real hard assets. And let's face it, Trump is a real estate guy. He knows the value of land. It's up there. If you're looking to make investments, gold, silver, and land, baby, like they understand that. So he's working with BlackRock, I think, to tokenize all that, and because all the deeds are going to be put on the blockchain, and which is complicated, but this is a plan they're working towards. So, and again, I've been telling people for a long time about Greenland, that they want Greenland. I think Iran and Venezuela are no different. They're calling Venezuela the new Saudi Arabia. Greenland was green at one point when the Vikings arrived, according to some accounts. So all those resources are under the ice. So yeah, land grab that doubles with tokenization. And I mean, they want to build a big, let's not forget, they want to build a big tech hub up in Greenland.
Yeah, there was the Technate was Greenland incorporated with the whole North America.
And Venezuela, which Ben showed me that. He pointed that out to me. He's like, oh, look at this, the old Technate map. It goes from Greenland all the way down and encompasses Venezuela.
And China's been supplying, hasn't China been supplying Iran with missiles? I thought I saw that they were sending some over. So they are kind of adjacently in the war-ish.
Right. That's what I was going to say real quick. I think, so Trump wants to build this thing called the Golden Dome. It's like an impenetrable fortress that they want to build. It's originally a German idea. So surveillance dome. And also like they want to be able, I think they want to be able to take more land and not be bombed. So that alone could start World War III, because if a U.S. president with narcissistic leanings thinks he's invincible to bombs, that's not going to sit well with China or Putin. So right now, these countries having these bombs give them leverage. The Golden Dome challenges that. And I suspect eventually that someone will want to stop allowing the current administration to play these world dictatorship games and say, okay, enough's enough. That's strong enough in my mind to pull in somebody like China.
Well, China works with Israel. I mean, Israel gives weapons to China, and then China gives those weapons to Iran. So Israel can go, oh my God, Iran has weapons. It's, and they get them from us. So our tax money goes to giving those weapons and money over to Israel so they could give it to China, to Iran. So then they could scream about Iran. It is, it's crazy. Like Ben says, they're all Masonic members, and they're all part of the club.
What's funny too is that Greenland area, right? Like that Arctic Circle region, made me think of the Doomsday Seed Vault that's out there in that area. And this is something that got developed by Bill Gates, Gavi, Rockefeller. What's interesting about this is basically the food supply for the rest of the world after some sort of like dystopian crash, like where fallout or some sort. They have a GMO section and organic section and whatnot, but
where's this?
This is up in that area though. It's on a Norwegian island up there, but it's it's near Greenland, right?
The
It's in that.
Rothschilds are involved in this, correct? And Bill Gates.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Bill Gates is just another Epstein, right? That works for higher elite families, in my
The
opinion.
Rothschilds. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, 100%. I'm sure everyone.
He's a squealy little fucker, isn't he? Jesus,
Yeah,
I
they
wonder-
all are, man. They're all good at doing bad things in open view. It's. I mean, your morality and your ethics have to get beat up to a certain point, to where your ego is completely gone. But I think that's another thing too, man, about these elites is when they go to these parties that you may have seen in like the movies Eyes Wide Shut or whatever, they wear the mask and the cloak to defeat their ego. Like they do that because they no longer have to worry about their appearance to anyone. They can actually do a bunch of things and learn how to destroy their ego over time. So they're sick, man. These are sick people, bro.
It sounds like that's what they do up at the Bohemian Grove as well. Like they all run around naked and get drunk and high. And Nixon's like, it's the faggotiest damn thing I've ever seen. It's like, dude, Nixon was the man, dude. Like he might have been the man. Like other than Kennedy, Nixon might have been the actual man. I mean, he was talking about. I heard about these synagogue of Satan. He was talking about Israel and how we heard it, like, because I feel like in the 70s, they were just kind of starting to infiltrate because, you get Ted Pike that talks about it in the 80s, how AIPAC has infiltrated the Congress, etc. And I think that, in the 70s, they were just kind of hearing about it. I do think in the 40s, it definitely kicked off, but I just don't know how much of America was fully taken over by the Zionist regime at that point. But man, it's so funny to listen to Nixon and the shit he said. They definitely set him up.
He was a major influence on. He was a mentor to Trump.
Nixon?
Honestly, yes.
Nixon?
Oh, yeah.
Get the fuck out of here.
No,
really?
Dude, for real. Yeah, Trump in the Oval Office has a framed letter of Nixon to him. Back in the day, Nixon saying that he would back him for president. They were real close. When Nixon moved to New York City and started hanging out in Trump's circle, they went to the same church and everything. They were really close. I'd say the two people who were probably the most influential on Trump, besides himself, is Roy Cohen and Richard Nixon
and his uncle. Don't forget, he always tells stories about his uncle.
Right.
Well, and his uncle talked about how you could have a bomb, but I don't think it's a bomb. I think it's directed energy weapon that you could take into a stadium and it would blow up as big as a suitcase. They say they have those now. It's so funny how that works.
I would like to push back a little bit on Nixon being a great guy.
I was joking. I was joking. Go ahead, though. I accept it.
And somebody in the chat brought this up, and I was about to. Let's not forget that he, with Henry Kissinger, opened up relationship with China.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, that's where they could test out the beast system that they want to unfold over the rest of the world. I mean, who was the first country to enact social credit score? Who was the first country to really take everything digital? And this was all because of technocracy, right? And that's all because of what's his name, Nixon and Henry Kissinger. And then when you look at Henry Kissinger, he's got a book with Eric Schmidt and some other guy called The Genesis. What's it called? And about AI. So this has been a long plan. And Nixon took us off the gold standard, I believe.
Yeah. He's shitty. I was joking.
He's also, when he was part of, working with the CIA, he's the one that actually brought in these Nazi scientists from Operation Paperclip.
He also, like, Reagan did this, sneaky little thing where he wrote up, like, back to the national security agreements. He wrote like 150 of them, but Nixon signed them in. So they weren't like 100% until Nixon signed. So it was kind of a handoff. So yeah, you're right, 100%. I was just kidding. I mean, he might have even been implicated with some of the boys, taking a tour of the White House, the little boys club. So you're right. I see.
He had gangster-like tendencies. I think you see that in the Watergate thing. But what's interesting about this is, I think that the times that we've been close to disclosure have generally been underneath Republicans. I think Nixon, I think, actually wanted to be the first disclosure president, and they just wouldn't let him. Nixon had a base out in Australia. It's a joint U.S.-Australia base where they were getting all kinds of intel on UFOs. I think that got stored away. I think Trump might have access to some of that, the Nixon UFO files. Nixon took Jackie Gleason. You guys know this story, right? Where Nixon and Jackie Gleason got drunk one night and hopped in a plane or a helicopter, went to a military base, and he allegedly showed Gleason the bodies and other forms of UFO related stuff, to the point where Jackie Gleason, right after this experience, started building himself a house in the shape of a UFO. And Gleason's wife has attested to this too. She was like, it changed him. You know, whatever Nixon showed him to do with aliens, it changed him. And then Reagan, we know the speech, of course, to the UN and all that. Reagan was writing notes to himself to talk about UFOs in his speeches. And who was it? One of his advisors publicly would say later that he would go in and take out all the UFO mentions out of Reagan's speeches. And that guy was sick the one day that he went and spoke to the UN. That's why he talked about the alien presence and all that. It slipped through. His handlers didn't take it out of his speech that day. So Nixon, Reagan also had a crazy UFO experience in California. He was on a plane with the governor of California, and they saw one plain as day. And he was so overtaken by it, when he stepped off the plane, he accidentally talked to the reporters about it, and he caught himself. I've watched the footage, like he catches himself like, oh, you guys are reporters, I shouldn't be saying this. So now I think it's funny that we got Trump in, and Trump is now apparently going to disclose all this stuff. It's just weird how it's Trump's mentor was involved, Nixon, and then Reagan. It all seems like Republicans.
Mute.
So I'm on one thing or the other here. Anyways, he's the last president, right? Like, what do you guys think about that? Him being this idea of a last president, the Baron Trump thing. I mean, yeah. I mean, what do you guys think about him being the last president? World War III being on on the line, right? So,
I mean, that's what I'm saying. Did they accelerate this? They have those books. Where did that guy get that idea from? I think that he was channeling that stuff from, outside of this realm. And maybe that's why they released the Epstein files earlier than they wanted to. Maybe that's why they decided to go into Iran now. I don't think that it was to cover up the Epstein files like some people believe. Just like I don't think alien disclosure is a distraction from the Epstein files. I think they're all part of this greater agenda.
It's the shotgun shell down the hallway.
Yeah.
It's going to hit something, and it's.
Well, I agree.
It's all coming at you.
I agree with that, but also, Lockwood, there's some weird shit with that. Like Lockwood, he was friends with the guy who wrote the book, was friends with Mark Twain, who was very close with Tesla, who Trump's uncle got his shit, right? And then there's this idea that they're time traveling in the books, if I'm not mistaken. And, I don't know, right? I mean, that's crazy. But you also have, now either this is a long planned thing, there's some kind of weird fucking actual time crazy shit going on, or I don't know, coincidence is real and we're in a simulation. I don't know. But you also have, what's his name? Werner von Braun, that wrote the book about going to Mars and how Elon is going to run a technocratic state on Mars with the League of 10, right? And, that gets right back into, 10X, that's Elon's obsession with X, and his grandpa started the technocratic movement. So it's weird. It's either they're all connected, and, they write these books to kind of move the Overton windows, seed the mind, and kind of get you prepared, or I don't know. It's very odd.
Yeah, I think Alex Jones was talking about this a long time ago, dude. This had to be like right after I was in high school, and basically that the world's going to set up 7 territories or something like that, where they're unions, right? The European Union, the North American Union, right? And then Asia and whatever, like all the world's broken up into these unions. And it's, with the Technate map, do you think that's going to contribute to, like a 10 king process here?
So if you go look up the Club of Rome and what they wanted to do in 1970, they kind of built on the idea of a technate. And the only difference is one's just a North American technate, and they differ on the borders a little bit. but the Club of Rome set up the world in 10 trading regions. And when I found that out, the first thing I thought about was the 10 kings that give their power to the beasts. So right now, I think they're selling us on this idea that globalism is dying. You saw that at the WEF when Howard Lutnick came and said, globalism is over.
Dude,
No.
people are falling for that. I can't believe it.
They're just redrawing the lines into 10 trading regions, and the globalists are just going to be more responsible for specific regions on the globe. So I think that's ultimately where they're trying to take us over the next, 5 months to a year and a half. And I could be wrong, and I don't like dates, but everybody pay attention to the World Cup. On the Economist cover, where they predict 2026, or tell you what they're going to do, all the craziness is encompassed in a soccer ball, and it's being kicked by a player. And as you know, the World Cup is currently being held in North America, Canada, United States, Mexico. And then you kind of see also with that CIA operation into taking out that cartel. And it wasn't because that cartel was a bad guy or anything like that. He just wasn't playing ball. It was only strengthening the other cartels that the CIA works with. So I think they're going to be creating a lot of, they're going to destabilize everything, especially in North America. And that's when this trading region is going to start encompassing more. And I think you'll see the world create 9 other ones, creating the 10 trading regions that the Club of Rome was talking about.
Ben, is this it?
Yeah.
This is it?
When is the World Cup? Is that coming up soon?
It's in June. And that's the craziest thing right there when I saw
Look
it was
at
all
this
around a soccer
one.
ball.
Look at right here. Is it full screen? Right?
No, it's
Yeah,
not.
you zoom in a little bit. Yeah, you can zoom in. Yeah.
Why is that doing that?
Hey, by
Well,
the
it's
way,
like a.
real
Go
quick,
ahead.
something I noticed a minute ago, Ben, you might find this interesting. The Greenland flag looks just like the Technate symbol.
It does. Yep, same thing.
It's the same colors, and the Technate symbol is a yin yang that's red and white, and the Greenland flag is red and white. Now it's not a yin yang, but it's a circle that has a dividing line between the white and the red. It's just very that's very easy.
Come on, dude. They know what they're doing. This is a long, like you said, this is a long planned thing. And yeah. So somebody was saying, to your point, Ben, somebody was mentioning, are they going to let Iranian soccer players in for the World Cup because of the whole Iran situation? False flag scenario. I mean, what goes on there? I wonder. We'll see. But speaking of that, today you had the bar in Austin. Somebody went in there and shot people, stabbed them, and I believe he had like an Iranian shirt or a some kind of like.
He had a sweatshirt. He surprisingly had a sweatshirt that said "Property of Allah."
There we go.
Oh,
yeah.
wow!
And so we see it happening now already, just to really make sure that people understand that this is a needed war over there in Iran.
Hey, real quick, Craig Hayden, shout out, brother. For the $3 dono. It is the reptilian agenda with all these wars. Yeah, no doubt, dude.
Facts.
Yeah.
I love it, man. Hey, thank you very much, brother. Okay, yeah. Hey, let's get into that. Let's get into false flags and because something's got to spark this thing in emotion, right? To where there's no more going back. What are your guys' thoughts with that?
Hey,
I think
first
we
of
have
all,
to. Go on, Tim.
No, Ben, it's all you, brother. Go.
Oh no, I think 100%. Because think about this. They just released 3 million documents about how our government and all governments are controlled by a pedophile network, and no one is out in the streets. No one is calling for the overthrowing of this government. Maybe we're too comfortable. I mean, I don't think we should. I don't think there's any overthrowing this. In fact, I think they want us to try to overthrow it. But in order for them to manifest the reality of ushering in this new system, they need, especially Americans, but everybody, to get off their butts and start, doing what they want them to do. So I think in order to do that, we're going to see some horrific high impact events, and don't think it can happen. We know all about 9/11, and they killed 3,000 innocent people that day just to carry out their agenda. So, be vigilant. Don't live in fear. The Holy Spirit is not a spirit of fear, but protect your neck while you're out there. Keep your head on a swivel. And,
Damn
I'm dead
right.
serious, and abide in the Lord, abide in the Spirit, because that's like the guardrails that keeps us from going the way of the world, right? Falling for these false agendas. It's that Holy Spirit. It's that narrow pathway with our Messiah Jesus. And I think that's importantly crucial during all of this. Because like I said, they've poured on the gasoline. As Andrew said earlier, the deep state exposed the deep state. We know all this stuff. They're going to push this forward. And the best we can have is faith in the Lord and share the gospel with everybody.
Yeah. And they've been saying for a while. So months ago in the beginning of maybe middle of last year, I want to say, well, before July for sure, they had a document that came out. It was talking about biodefense, biological warfare, and they put out a simulation, as they always like to do before, something may happen, where it goes over on July 4th. There's a Chinese agent spy that comes over to America and releases a biological agent. And it is it ends up, it goes into this whole scenario of like what happens, right? And so since then, we've had two bio labs that have been busted that have connection with Chinese spies that also have connections with, weaponized viruses, different biological agents, etc. So I'm not one to sit here and predict, but I'm saying it looks like they're seeding the mind like they always do. They put out a simulation. You have a couple of news articles that were busting biolabs. Next thing you know, you have the real thing, right? So just something else to kind of think about, not to like, push fear or anything, but that's definitely something I've noticed. It's a pattern. They tend to always kind of, fuck, Bill Cooper talked about 9/11 before it happened because they talked about Osama bin Laden doing something, to a building, right? So this was in July or June before it happened in September. So I don't know. I just think that, it's always good to watch patterns like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's setting up for the New World Order, in my opinion, and I think they're in their asset gathering stage. I think the technate and the technocracy is a great play for them to try and achieve this. You look at the technate map, all the places. It's when you have somebody who wants to be king of the Western Hemisphere, the technocracy play is the way to go. And you can see that mirrored in the map. You've got Greenland right there to the north, Venezuela down to the south. And I think they just threw Iran in because why not? And because it's going to help them get more of a foothold in the Middle East. And like I said before, I think finalize this plan that General Wesley Clark laid out that was told to him in the White House. Iran was the last country on that list. So finalization of old plans, beginning new plans. And I guess you could say in terms of the technocracy and the technate map, yeah, that too is sort of a finalization of an old plan that leads to where we're at right now with technology and singularity and all that stuff. Technocracy, as it was formed in the 1930s, propagated by people like Elon Musk's grandfather even, is nothing more than a stepping stone to get us to singularity. The technology we have today obviously wasn't available in the 30s. So they're just, that technate map is so crucial to sort of seeing something close to, I think, what they're really doing. And they're going to use these certain locations to propagate this. I want to remind people, when you're talking Venezuela, Iran, and Greenland, we're talking oil, earth minerals, natural gas, uranium, copper, gold, and a bunch of other stuff that they don't want us to know that they have under the ice out there and under, the mountains of Iran. A lot of what we're seeing is about assets, and they're going to apply crypto to that too. So I think that's where you get your one world currency in the mix here. Allegedly they took Mencho's crypto to help build. They're going to use it to help build this golden dome that Trump wants. So BlackRock, like I said, they want to tokenize everything. And I think they're going to attach Trump's coin to that. I think that's going to make the Trump family very, very wealthy. The Trump family has I'm trying to remember what it's called. It's Liberty Financial Network or something like that. It's a crypto firm. They started it in 2024. They've already made $1 billion off of that. So crypto has a huge role here. And Elon Musk is getting in the crypto game big time as well. Not that he hasn't been already, but he's going to do an X coin of some sort, X money. It's XMR or something like that he's working on. So these guys are looking toward getting the assets and further setting up this system that gets us closer to one world government and one world currency.
Yep.
Yeah.
And,
Shout
we
out Doc
talk-
Brown, the most soothing.
Shout
boy
out
in the-
Doc, baby.
Shout out
Let's
Doc
go.
Brown, the
Shout out
most. I'll just say the most soothing voice in the conspiracy game.
Hell yeah.
Where is he at? There he is. Okay.
Right on.
Yeah, he had Billy Crone on his show. That's a good one to get. Throwing that out there. He's from Vegas or something like that, but someplace outside of Vegas. What do you guys think? Like through the process, I think we're pretty fixed that World War III is happening. So through the process of World War III, what happens through the what's going to happen through the technological world, in the currency world, in the nations? Whoever wants to go first, let me hear your thoughts.
Catherine Austin Fitz was just on Tucker Carlson talking about this. And it sounds like she was trying to indicate that a lot of these major wars that us conspiracy theorists have always said had to do with central banks. And these countries are all countries that don't have central banks. She was indicating that not only was it that, it was that they needed to set up for this digital currency that was going to come down the line after. And they still haven't fully completed it. I guess Iran, a few other places, maybe still. But definitely Iran was kind of another one of those spots. So she was kind of indicating that it's always been about building this digital currency system that they've been trying to create. I mean, we know that we've read about people in the 80s talking about making this. So it's not that unbelievable that we've been thinking it was all about, central banks, and we were kind of half right, but it's about CBDCs, not just central banks.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm with you.
What do you think, Ben?
Well, I almost wonder, so we went into Venezuela. A lot of people thought that was over the central bank. We go into, what was it? Gaddafi, where he ruled. He didn't have a central bank. You go into Iraq. They didn't have a central bank. But I look at these guys as all placeholders. I like this fighting between the two countries. I really don't see it. I think that Maduro was a CIA puppet or a Mossad puppet. There's real no difference between CIA, MI6, and Mossad. A lot of the power is actually held in the Bank of England and these royal bloodlines. So, I think they're just all placeholders. I don't think there's any real dissenting countries. Each person or each group or region, they need to get the consent of the people to carry out their plan. So I just think they feed everybody lies, and the lies change depending on the population.
That's crazy. I want to show something real quick. You're talking to them of like placeholders and all this kind of stuff. So do you think they all meet up like here? Wait, where is it? Boom.
Oh,
Like
dude, that's
right?
exactly where I was about to go with this.
Let's go.
I was getting ready to go to Astana, which is Kazakhstan, right?
Yeah, this is it.
So
isn't that like the Masonic country that was built to be a Masonic country?
It looks like a Masonic type of a setup they've got the city laid out in a very occult fashion.
What the fuck? That is crazy.
Yeah. Oh, dude. Well, there is.
Listen, they got a room at the top of this pyramid that it's a conference room, and it sits exactly 200 people. And of course, if you're familiar with the 200 watchers, that's awfully suspect.
Yeah. Is this the place with the globe that or was that in Saudi Arabia that Trump was holding the globe and shit? This looks like this would be where that globe is, dude. You know what I'm saying? This looks like where they're holding the glowing gold globe, just fucking inside of the pyramid and shit. It looks like the Legend of Zelda fucking symbol. I mean, dude, that's fucking crazy.
They've got a crazy tie. Kazakhstan and specifically the leadership of Kazakhstan that's headquartered in Astana has very strong ties to Belgium and the EU. And they've done nothing but strengthen those ties in recent year. And I think what we see here with the current U.S. domination campaign. It's going to force smaller countries to band together. And I do think that that is a very interesting place where you might see an antichrist figure arise, would be out of a place like Astana. They've got all the infrastructure there for, you know, to hold conferences, and they've got the ties with the EU and all that. And also, if you it gets kind of crazy, because if you go back to this old Nostradamus prediction, he talked about the guy with the blue turban who would be the Antichrist. And nobody can figure out who this guy was, but if you look at it and you look at what Nostradamus said, he said, well, first of all, it's the turban's blue and the Kazakhstan flag is blue. That's their color. Also, he said, Nostradamus said it would be a Muslim, what is the word for it? Mongol. They would be like a Muslim Mongol nation. And the only place that's Muslim and Mongol is Kazakhstan. That's where he said the Antichrist would come out of.
Really?
And of course yeah. So and there's more to it.
Wow, the Mormon said they were going to come out. It would come out of Independence, Missouri. You know, that's my state. We ran him out of Missouri because of that shit. We're like, yo, what the fuck are you talking about?
Right here, so you're actually getting a view from the top of the Reconciliation building. It's the piece of Reconciliation, and it's looking out, kind of like as if the obelisk would look towards the Capitol building. And you kind of see those two gold pieces of architecture here. So I've heard some people talk about these as being the pillars of Freemasonry. Like these are the two pillars. Because when you're over here looking through, it's funny because the tip of the pyramid meets the top of the womb of Osiris through the two pyramids. I don't know. I mean, you could go crazy, right? With that.
Yeah.
So
1000%.
It looks like a 15-minute.
Can I ask the group a question based off what the chat is talking about? You think Captain Austin Fitz is controlled ops?
I don't trust anybody. It's like here's the thing. You know, Tucker's out here saying we need a new 9/11 commission. But I have plenty of evidence that shows that guy is fully fucking in on it. So it's the deep state is outing the deep state. Right. So it gets back to that. Now, what we get after that is yet to be known, but without understanding that it is the deep state telling us about the deep state. If we didn't understand that, we're going to take these people as like our saviors and be like, well, I'll do whatever you want. I mean, you told me about all the 21 trillion that went missing for the underground civilization. You tell me whatever, I'll go with it. And so, yeah, no, we got to proceed with caution, but you can't throw out all the information out, you know?
No.
Yeah.
Hey, yeah, I saw her on, I think it was Danny Jones yeah, I think that's the one. And, you know, I'll say this, she wasn't making herself any friends by what she was saying. I'll give her that.
She did seem to vouch for the people back then too, even. So, I mean, you know, you never know. You know, it's hard to tell, but I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. All I gotta say is she used to work for HUD, right? So she was very high up in there. And hey, listen, what's on her heart is good. But the one thing I have noticed, especially right now, as she's dropping all these truth bombs, she seems, and hey, I could be wrong about all of this, right? But she seems to stop at Mossad and the USA. And I think the control structure is so big. In fact, I think the elites want you to know or think that it's just Mossad and the USA, that there's this evil axis that's going on, because what prophecy says is that the nations turn on Israel. And what you also find, like I said, I mentioned it before, a lot of this stuff goes back to the Bank of England. A lot of this stuff goes back to the Holy Roman Empire. And we know that the Rothschilds are servants of the Holy Roman Empire. All you have to do is look at their family crests and you see that eagle right on top of that. And the double-headed eagle is the symbol for the Holy Roman Empire. They changed their name from the Bowers to the Rothschilds, which means red shield. And it protects the red cross of the Knights Templars, who moved all their gold up to Switzerland after they got disbanded, and Rothschild Inc. kind of took over that entire banking arm. So I'm back and forth on her, but I do think that she puts out a lot of good information.
You know, also to your point there, Roseanne, she says shit like, about the elite eating babies and all this shit. But then she also talks about Israel and how if you go against Israel, it'll be the last thing you do or whatever. In that sentence, she mentioned that Israel is trying to get away from or sever ties with the royal family and the royals. I think that that's not true. You know what I mean? The same way that they tell us the truth about the Andonia plan, they tell us the truth about Albert Pike's letter. They always put something to discredit it so that way they could say, no, that's not real. Even though I see with my eyes, ears, and experience that everything is happening in front of me, you're going to tell me it's not real and it's fake. It seems like a plan that you discredited ahead of time to me. Well, they do this thing also where controlled ops will tell you a lot of truth and then discredit put a piece of information in there now that they got you to lead you away, right? Oh, they want to cut ties with the royals. Okay, whatever.
Now, I'd even say this, because I think that the royals are actually a more blue chip bloodline, and they actually brought in the Rothschilds to handle the banking arm of the control structure. And then as they amounted all that money, they gained more and more powers. And maybe this is kind of like a Game of Thrones with the royals battling with the lesser royals for control of this realm.
Yeah, I think the Game of Thrones analogy is spot on. Real quick, just to put a bow on something, the EU has invested over 200 million in Astana. And I went back and I'd listened to an EU meeting in Brussels. Brussels very, very corrupt. They even had their own sort of Pizzagate Epstein moment back in the early 2000s, where all this child, pizza stuff came out, and the people were aware of it. The people almost overthrew the government over this in Brussels. Very corrupt place, very fitting place, I think, to house a place like the EU. But here's what Nostradamus said. In case anybody's curious about what I was talking about, he said that the Antichrist would enter Europe in southwestern France. And if you look at a map, that's Marseille, and you would go, or Nice, and where you'd go next from there is Geneva, where CERN is. And if you were to continue going north, which is what you would do if you were entering, South France, you would end up in Belgium, where the EU is. And Nostradamus also said that he would be a terror to mankind. He would be a strong master of Muhammad. He would wear a blue turban. He would bring back life to the king of the Mongols. And said, when those at the northern pole, Greenland, are united in the east, will be a great fear and a great dread. This new land will be at the height of its powers. Nostradamus.
Wow.
So you said south of France. He said something about south of France.
He said
Morocco?
that. Yeah.
He did. Is Morocco?
Okay, he said that the Antichrist would enter Europe through southwestern France, where on that Nice, Marseille area.
But that is where like Morocco is, right? Like Morocco's right around there. Is it not?
It's on Africa's side, right?
I think, yeah, but it's like south, in between France and Africa. I think you got to go through Morocco, if I'm not mistaken. So that'd be southwest, south. But I only ask because, you guys have probably seen this. That Moroccan prince, everybody like has to like, you can't kiss his hand. Everybody bows to him and like can't touch him. Have you seen videos of that where they say that this kid is like the Antichrist? He's like 16 and like he has these weird, like huge leaders
What's
of
his
other
name?
countries. Look up the Moroccan prince.
There's also Monaco, which is in that area too.
Yeah. I think Morocco because what's his name?
Oh, I know I see him. I see who you're talking about.
Yeah, and so that there's been a lot of videos that talk about like big leaders can like have to take weird customs with this guy. Like he's got some untouchability to him. And you mentioned the South France. I mean, let's be honest. I don't think the Antichrist is one person. I think it's like this whole system that they're building up that may come through various people. But if we were going to throw out conjecture, I mean, back in the day, they said that the Antichrist was in London, Lord Maitreya. That was something Bill Cooper was saying a while back. So it's hard to know. It's hard to tell. But yeah, this kid, dude, people, if you watch a video of this dude, like people are weird with him, man. Like they take weird customs for this kid.
That's weird, man.
The Morocco flag is red with a 5-pointed star. And that's more than likely. I'd have to look it up to to make sure, but
Oh my
that's
gosh.
more than
Come on,
likely.
dude. Come on, dude. The lion raises his right paw, dude. Look at that. He's looking right at you while he does it.
And a
Dude.
pentagram right in the center of that.
Yeah,
Let's
Dude,
go with
Ben,
the
you
rays.
crack
How many
me up,
rays?
bro.
How many rays?
that's the 5-point star of Venus there, and the lion represents the divine feminine. It
Yeah.
did
wait.
it did in the ancient world.
There's about 15 or 16 rays of light there. If there's 16, then it goes back to what Ben said, that Virginia star.
I'm telling you, there's so much you can learn from these family crests and
Oh,
these
yeah.
logos and these flags. I think it's not Afghan, but Pakistan. If you look up the Pakistan Intelligence Agency, there's literally a picture of the Baphomet on this logo. And
Yeah.
you start looking at this thing, you're like, what? And that's what I'm
Dude.
saying. These intelligence agencies, they work for bloodline families.
Watch
and they
that
all worship
kid.
these gods.
Watch that kid come out of nowhere and start running shit, bro. I'm just saying, like, it's crazy. I mean, probably not, but imagine, just imagine.
Do you think we know the Antichrist yet?
Is this it, Ben?
Oh no, go to another one and go type in goat because they have multiple ones. Type in like goat Afghan intelligence.
I want to get
Okay.
into that.
Oh
in a
no,
minute.
Pakistan, my bad. Goat
Pakistan.
Pakistan intelligence.
Once we get done with this, I do want to tell you what I think about that, because there is something to that I think. I
What,
wanna
the
play
goat?
that.
The goat?
No, the Antichrist thing.
Oh, go yeah. Do you think we know the Antichrist yet? I don't know. If you do.
I think that it gets back to the Superman. It gets back to making a new man. It gets back to the enlightened man, the Luciferian philosophy, which makes the new man. I think that, when we talk about the Nazi race that they're trying to create, I think that it's not just a DNA race. I think it's also a spiritual race, right? Through the Luciferian doctrine. And I think that there's a lot of analogies that go on. And yeah, there's some literalities probably with the beast system, etc. But I think at the end of the day, it's about our consciousness. And the consciousness of man will be changed to be the Antichrist. It will be the opposite of Christ. It'll be the Luciferian kind of,
You know, it's interesting. I hope that I'm saying the right word. I should know this, but there's a lot of people who think Nimrod was the first Antichrist type figure. And
Right.
as you know,
Heard
he
that.
became a Gibborim. He became a mighty man of old.
Exactly.
So maybe
Yes.
this new
You
Antichrist
have to. It
figure
has to go hand in
in that
hand.
same vein is this, half mutant, half transhuman with all these special gifts. Yeah, check this out.
Yeah, that's
Jeez.
kind of what Nostradamus was saying.
Wow.
And this is
Oh,
a Muslim
Did you see
country.
that? So that movie, The Goat, that movie is coming out Friday the 13th, dude. I just think that's funny. I want to throw that out there while we're looking at goats.
Wicked, huh?
Nostradamus was saying that he said that there were several antichrists, and he was talking about one that would be the third or the fourth. And yeah, you could have had one being Nimrod, you could have had two being Hitler. I mean, I don't know. I'm just a little throwing it out there, but and he was using the stars to come up with this stuff.
Mhm.
There may have been some channeling involved as well, but he
And
was
studying history, I believe, too. A very, very deep historian. He was, he studied the repetitions of history, which goes into kind of the
Right.
80-year cycle we talked about in your show. I think that
Mhm.
something like that, but way deeper. Like Pythagoras, they used to do math to tell the future. So, it could have been something like that too, where like they would do math and tell the future. Like he would tell people an earthquake is coming at this day and it would happen. Pythagoras would. So very, very powerful. Again, the architect of the universe will tell you everything when you start using his language.
Mm.
Yeah, the math was some of the equations and just math itself they thought was connected with the stars.
All of it's connected. Yeah.
It's all it's all
mystery
yeah,
school.
It really
It's all
is.
mystery school sciences. Mystery school sciences,
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's the Zodiac Club type stuff, right? Like one of the secret societies of many secret societies, right? Like, and I think they articulate certain things. They go to war at certain times because of certain, signs or whatever. And that's how they make a lot of their money too. Like when you look in the temple of Epstein, on the ceiling of the temple, you actually have the Zodiac, right? But it's actually showing you like a battle scene, and there's a bunch of symbolism in with that too. But it's been talked through the ages, and it's been actually, I mean, it's known that these people make their money with this kind of occult science, right? So, and I think that it's funny, I watched the movie Eyes Wide Shut all over again, like 25 years later in my life. I went back and revisited it just because of all the Epstein stuff made me think of it. And they get their power by just kind of following through ritual, and I'm wondering if that's a style of ritual that I know nothing about. I don't even know where to start with that, right? But they
Mhm.
got the information, right, to
Mhm.
kind of usher in a connection with this realm of entities, demonic entities, non-human intelligence, whatever.
The
And
Real Society.
Dude,
well,
that fucking movie was so boring, dude. I swear to God, they changed that movie up so much. It was so hard to get through. I tried rewatching that with my wife, and I was like, "Holy shit, this
did
is
you watch
this is bad."
the end hit me hard
I mean, I
because
watched the whole thing at one point. It's just. I'm like, man, they made this intentionally boring. It was hard to get
it
through.
is
And
very
then,
slow, dude. I actually
yeah,
what's better, if you ever watch it again, just play it on 2x speed. That's kind of
there
like
we
what I
go.
did, because I was like, this is really slow. But
It was
at the
great.
end of the
Yeah.
movie, they actually give their child up to the secret society, and they actually offer their child to the god Belial or
Yeah.
Baal or
Yes.
Malik
You
or
know,
whatever you want to call it. It's so funny because Nicole Kidman starts crying, she's like showing her motherly passion that she's actually doing this. And then she like turns into like this, Jezebel spirit, Babylonian goddess, where then she's like, let's get out of here and go F, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, this is what they had to do, right, to get into these societies. And I think they at some point do, right? Like they've got to sacrifice something. I don't, get speculative with that, but
Yeah. I always think back to, I mean, rappers, man, all the time, dude. I mean, all the time. Rappers
mm,
sacrifice. I feel like they talk about it more than any other celebrity. If you want to get some real down dirty, go listen to what rappers talk about they have to do behind the scenes. And it really
yeah.
comes down to they seem discredited because they're just some rapper. But yeah, I don't know, man. They all seem to kind of get down like that.
yeah,
It's very, very wild.
yeah,
You said something interesting. It's like these people do rituals to connect to the architect or connect to these gods or whatever. And I thought about this. What disconnects us from our creator according to the Bible? It's our
Material.
sin.
Oh yeah,
Our
that's
sin
it.
is what disconnects us
mm,
from the creator. So I wonder if our sin in these rituals also connect us to this satanic element that's running this world, to these spiritual beings. If the opposite, I think, would be true. So maybe that's why they have all this perverted stuff, all this sex magic stuff that's going on within all these groups, is because
mm,
that's what their master, that's what the architect wants.
Yeah,
mm,
it's carnal passions as well. It's, I'm not of this world, God says, right? So what is of this world? All passions, sex, greed, money, lust, gluttony, all the like seven deadly sins, they happen to go into like just these like addictions and vices that we tend to kind of fall into. Each person has a different one. We call them karmic debts. But really it's just carnal passions, these things that we tend to want to do. And the more you lean into them, the more satanic I believe you are.
mhm,
Well, that's what the ex Satanists all tend to say, is that speaking to this uh, carnal carnal
Yes.
practices, is that they found themselves sinning as much as possible. Like the more they sin, the more they fell in tune with their magical practice. The Satanists say that, and it's like, and it builds. It's like, oh, the sins of yesterday are not good enough. You have to keep adding new sins on top to keep
Yeah.
growing this mountain of darkness.
That's drug addiction. You know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, it
Hmm.
gets worse every time you go back, or you know what I'm saying? That's the devil. And back to the mother thing that we talked about at the beginning. When you look at their analogy for God and the mother earth, God created us in his image. In other words, he created a soul, a conscious being that he would put down in the material realm. The material realm, Mother Earth, wraps her arms around us because she loves us, right? And then what that is an analogy for we have material passions that are tied to this earthly realm that we have to supersede in order to connect with that divine aspect that we're made in God's image, that divine part of us. And I believe that when we look at all these satanic rituals and everything, if God is cleanliness and God is beauty and God is all these things, the deeper you go in the opposite of that, the more you're gonna, carnal and material and dirty and etc. That's why all these satanic rituals, you got people drinking piss and shit and everything else, and terrible, the worst things you could imagine when it comes to like killing and decapitating, all of it. And I think that that's all it is, deeper into the earthly whatever.
Mm, mm. All right. So with well, I guess we'll get ready to wrap it up here in a little bit, but we'll finish with one last kind of topic. Or whatever. Like, what do you guys think? Do you guys think like there's going to be like an economic collapse out of that? Then we'll have like a new technological age that is actually in the cities, in the corporate, everywhere, right? Like a digital ID system. What are your thoughts with that?
Well, I'll go first. I
Go.
always thought that this major technological revolution that we're seeing comes after the collapse. So I think right now they're planting seeds, this idea of 10-minute cities. They're planting seeds in our brains, right? They're saying that this is the solution, which means if we don't do these things, it will lead to the eventual destruction of the earth, like they're telling us. So I think this major technological revolution, I think all their plans, they're going to enact them after a major global war where they collapse the system. I think they're going to try to wipe out, 4 to 5 billion of us. Just read the Georgia Guidestones. I think that plays into it. So that's what I really see. And so I think that all comes after they try to wipe this all out. And one more thing that I would like to say was somebody in the chat said they think they're going to wipe out the West. And like I said, not to put fear in anybody's eyes or anything like that, but when you read Revelation and how it plays out, 25% of the earth's population is wiped off the map just from the 4 horsemen, just through the birth pangs that lead up to this. And maybe what we're seeing now with this war and stuff like that could be the birth pangs that we're talking about that ultimately lead into this new system that they're trying to build.
Yeah, I asked the question, guys, because what I feel is going to come out of at least this world war, right? With where we're at with nuclear activity and whatnot, weapons of mass destruction, whatever, right? Apparently, there's like hidden military technology that the military is actually using. We used it, when we went into Venezuela, whatever. But I think of this. I think of this is like the Phoenix, right? So like there's going to be a period of destruction that could possibly be an outcome of World War III, and out of the ashes is like what I'm really, trying to figure out is a part of their agenda. Like, are they going to come out and just enroll? I mean, digital IDs, it just don't matter. It was World War III. It is what it is. You have no choice. Connecting us to the Internet of Things. Now, maybe wearables gets put into the play. And what they really want to do is just increase the security of their system by getting as close to us as they can, right? Like I'd say wearables is probably like the closest that they can get. I mean, my phone does scan biometrics, right? Like it scans my eyes. It has infrared light that flashes, every second when I go to look at it. And so there's the kind of like these hidden technologies, even just with something that we use every day as our phone, and we don't know the hidden capabilities with it, right? So like, what are your thoughts, brother?
Steven, you're gonna have to listen to my show, man. I talk about all the technology they're putting, the shit they're putting in the skies, the shit they're putting in our body, the synthetic fibers we're finding, the nanotechnology, the graphene oxide, all these things wiring us up for what Tim said to get us ready for singularity. The only way you do that, real quick, FM8 came on. Eric from FM8, he's Fire Medic 8, great guy. You should check him out. He gets real deep into the synthetic fiber aspect of this technology, and he said that it's kind of like a wired car that goes bad. You don't take out all the wiring, you just overlay the new wiring over it. And you can liken that to our nervous system. Our nervous system is in our body, it's not coming out. But if you wanted to hijack it, you would put a digital nervous system overlapping it. And I believe that is similar to what we see going on now. When you look into smart dust that's being sprayed in the skies as well, this is blanketing our whole world. And if you want to create a digital version of this world, you don't need just the Internet of Things. You need all of that together at all times. It's kind of like when you put sensors on a video game character so you can capture his movements. They're putting sensors on everything. God's creation is being replicated digitally, so we could eventually possibly be put in there. And I think when it comes to the economy aspect of this, this is a systematic destruction of the global economy to usher in this new digital technocratic state. And look no further than Trump saying he supports the crash of the dollar going into Iran and then completely destroying the oil, the straits of whatever over there, which is the hub of the energy zone for oil. And I know we're saying that we're energy dependent, things like that, but that's not really true. And we're going to start seeing the oil prices, everything go up. Things are going to get crazy economically here pretty quick.
I think you nailed it right there. You tapped into something that's really happening, and I'll just allude to it today. I want to keep it light, go into it more at a further time. But this digital nervous system that you're talking about, Andrew, I think they're certainly working on that. I think it's very possible that they have a substance that they're developing for that as well. And I think they figured out how to cook the substance up to quantum. Now this gets really deep and crazy, but basically it's like think about like a mycelium mushroom network that the earth helps facilitate through the ground. Now imagine having something like that you can control by a computer and marry it with AI and bring in all your newest quantum aspirations and then put that into the human body, right? Neuralink or what have you. I think they're working on that. So I think that when you see on the White House Twitter where it says the golden age, that translates to a technological golden age
the
that they're building.
Age. Yeah.
And I do think they used hidden tech in Venezuela too, and it ties right into this.
Wow.
Oh yeah,
dude, you know what they're doing? They're creating Shambhala. If they're copying and then duplicating us in another world, they are building it behind the scenes. Shambhala is there, right? In our reality of where we're at in the timeline today. And all they've got to do is just get us hooked in or I don't know, transfer us over. Who knows, right? Like I think the whole consciousness transfer thing is real. Elon Musk even talked about it. He said it could even happen in 20 years. And also, Epstein was funding to do this. He was involved with, cryonics, and he was, trying to learn how to map the brain, how to copy it, and then how to download it, upload it into a body, because you have to have a carrier for these kind of things.
Yep.
Getting into, this is getting into human robot hybrids, right? Because they're starting to learn that now the blood, the DNA, the life force that's in the blood actually is needed, because it is a connection to consciousness and how the brain works. And if basically consciousness is how scientists today kind of call it, a software, they're trying to build a good vessel, good enough just to take that software and put it over into something that's easily bioavailable. It fits with it in some sort of way.
Question. Do you think the digital, because you guys know way more about this and I find it extremely fascinating. Do you think this digital nervous system that they're trying to build is going to work hand in hand with this wearable technology that they're trying to put in? Or do you think that's going to replace the wearable technology?
Oh yeah. It just makes it completely plugs you in where they just know. I mean, really, what it comes down to is the surveillance aspect and the police state, really, in the beginning. It's the predictive policing. It's knowing what everybody's doing at all times. Did you know that your Wi-Fi is not only tracking what you're doing, but they are all selling to a third party, all of your movements. So your movements are being sold to third parties. So they're now building data on what you're doing in your home every single day. What is his habits when he gets home? What does he do on Monday, Thursday, Tuesday? Oh, what does he do when he goes to work? They're at all times. And so I don't think that they give us the singularity. I'm more of a pessimist. I think I go back to the destruction of 25% of the world. I go back to this is what the robots are for. we're going to give the elite this new singularity, this living forever technology, and we're going to sell the dream of it to people like us that systematically get taken out on the way there.
They're going to want to do they're going to have methods of external control and internal control. Internal being Neuralink and external being wearables. Who knows what that's going to look like? You know, you put something on your head near your brain and it starts to teach you how to rethink about things. It starts to, you know, influence you in certain ways. I think obviously the external methods are going to be way more potent, but I think the internal will be stronger, but the external will still have a major influence. So the AI human hybrids are coming.
Yeah,
it's on the
they
way.
are coming. And by
Did
the
you
way,
ever
to
see
Tim's
this movie?
point-
Go ahead,
surrogates.
Sorry, go ahead. Yeah,
Well, I was just
yeah.
gonna say to Tim's
Thoughts
point
on
about the Neuralink, you know, they are actually making that this year. I believe they're doing high production of Neuralink. So in other words, they're running them, you know, 100,000 a day. Let's get it. You know what I mean? So we're going to be seeing them on a mass scale being distributed, sold to everyday people. So, you know, that, and, you know, Meta's wanting to scan faces, and they're talking about how they're going to wait to like release it until there's a cultural, political upheaval so people don't notice. I mean, there's fuckery afoot. And yeah, we definitely got to pay attention, because your brain is an electromagnetic device, we could call it. And when they access past the blood-brain barrier, which we know that COVID, the whole point of it was because they could access past the blood-brain barrier. They mentioned that many times. What did they get past the blood-brain barrier? And what are they doing with that? Because it essentially renders your brain a receiver to information that you then think is your own thought patterns, etc. So yeah, I think that they could subtly make us think, and our attitudes and everything can change by letting this happen. So yeah. Sorry, yeah, I get real excited about this topic.
No, dude. Well, it's funny because I like the stuff you get into, man. And I've even covered, you know, quantum dots and graphene quantum dot technology, and basically the carbon, right? You brought that up, and there's this predictive programming that flashes some sort of black goo at us, and it's going to integrate with us at some point, you know. And then there's a connection with that and the Black Madonna, and how this is actually could have spiritual and conscious implications to it. And so it's that's why I think it's both. I think it's going to be technology and a spiritual aspect.
All the above.
All of the above, man. Yeah, huge shotgun down the hallway.
That's why I think Ben, dude, Ben really opened my mind a lot coming on. Like, I always knew there's a spiritual aspect to this, but it's biblical, spiritual, and technological all brought together in a geopolitical way. You know, it's crazy.
You know, it's really interesting. I remember watching this show a long time ago, and it was on Amazon, and I forget the name of it, but the plot of the show was there was this great war that tore down, you know, the world, and part of the rebuilding process was this transhumanist push, because there's a lot of people that were hurt in the Great War, and they lost a lot of their functions, and they lost limbs and stuff like that. And it was this inclusion of robotics. It was this inclusion of the AI, which allowed them to be healed again. Because believe it or not, I mean, we see ourselves going towards this agenda, but still a lot of the general population is looking at it like, I don't know about that. Am I really going to stick a brain chip in my brain and stuff like that? So I think if you make it needed, and we're seeing some of the wonders and the signs that it's creating, like the Neuralink is making people walk again, it's making them see again, right? They're telling us everything that it can do. And I think they need to bring society to a point where we need it. Remember, problem, reaction, solution. I don't think there's any different. So if you create a bunch of people who need this healing, they need this wonders of this technology, I think they're a lot more likely to accept it when they need it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's that show Peripheral as well that came out a few years ago, and I think it taps into this. And in that show, I think there's technology represented in that show that we're about to see manifest in reality, and it's headsets. You put these headsets on, it makes a neural connection with your brain, and you're able to step into another realm or even time travel in that show. But I think it's representative of the spiritual realm. You be able to put on some of these wearables, and it maybe allows you to enter into the quantum realm where that's inhabited by things, according to Gordy Rose, that aren't all the way human. So it's going to get wild.
100%.
I wanna show you guys something here. Trying to set it up so I don't get copyrighted. Wanna I gotta show this for you guys. Hey, I'm having a good time, guys. Thank you guys so much, man. This is a good time. Everyone in the chat, listen, we're gonna do a quick closing here with some QAs. So post some questions and stuff.
And I'm glad you guys all got to meet Andrew. I mean, when I met him, we did have that conversation. I think I was talking to Steven about that earlier. I was like, yeah, when I first went in there, I went hard on the Bible. I went hard on spirituality.
Yeah.
But you have, you know, so much about technology, and Steven gets down with that. I know Tim gets down with that. So I think you guys would have a great conversation about the crazy technology that
Hell yeah.
they're rolling out.
So this is the Disclosure Day trailer. Okay, so this I picked this up, and I don't know. I'm a conspiracy theorist at heart, so be easy on me.
Me too.
So he's looking into a digital screen right here. These two guys are actually turning away from him for some weird reason. This guy standing here is kind of like some sort of handler. I'm not really sure, or he works right next to this guy. When you look at him, he's getting ready to go into like this conscious transfer of some sort where he's actually going to be controlling another human being. And this falls into the narrative with reverse engineering alien technology. There's a secret group in the government that has it, and they're actually using it for their own good. So I think that's what's being played out here. Again, I'm a conspiracy theorist, but what I see here is in his right hand, he has a piece of tech, right? Very similar to the one that the whistleblower in the beginning of the movie is on the run with. Okay. And attached to his forehead, which those are biblical positions there, right? Forehead and right hand. And he's getting ready to go into this conscious transfer, bro. So I mean, I'll play a second of it. You see it, right? So, and I think I saw this again. I'm a conspiracy theorist. I saw this same kind of like layout and symbol on the Trump Abraham Accords coin. And if I could bring that up.
Yeah.
What
That's
movie is this?
crazy.
This is Disclosure Day trailer. So it's Steven Spielberg's Alien movie coming out in June.
Laurel
Man,
Canyon himself. Sorry, go ahead.
It's gonna be full of stuff, man.
Oh yeah. Hold on, let me
I
see.
didn't
yeah.
I did not expect to see that type of a thing represented in there. That's why that
Dude, I
reminds
mean,
me of the Matrix, where they lay down and they
Yep.
insert something into their head, of course, and they go into this other realm.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, Spielberg, man. I mean, he predicted Jurassic Park, you know, before. I mean, fuck, Jurassic Park was all about like the shit that with the DNA with dinosaurs, and we're like doing that now. So I mean,
this is the Abraham Accords coin. A lot of significance to this stuff. And it's in a scimitar sword, which this has another connection with what I believe is to be the demiurge on the Denver airport mural, actually looking like he's a Nazi figure of some sort with a scimitar sword, and he's swinging it in the Denver airport mural. But that's one connection. But
yeah,
when I look at this,
too.
yeah, I mean, this looks like some sort of like we're entering into a digital age, and I or something. I don't know. You've got biometrics here. You've got a palm tree. We talked a little bit about that in the green room earlier. You know, binary codes, satellites. We're going to space. The dove represents many interesting things, and then what could be a UFO or Saturn. But this symbol right here is the one that got me. It looks like the 3-point symbol that kind of like was on the guy's head. Again, I'm a conspiracy theorist. So
that looks a lot like the sword, the Mullah Shrine sword. I believe that's the same one, is it not?
Yes. Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So yeah, there you go.
Mhm.
I mean,
Wow,
come
man,
on,
wow.
dude. Nobody even uses those swords anymore, dude. The people haven't used those swords in 2,000 years. What are we doing here? So you know, there's no coincidences.
Yeah. But well, I don't see any questions in the chat or anything, man. Is there anything you guys wanted to just, you know, have a small piece to say before we close out, plug away, and go to bed or whatever? We'll start with you, Tim.
Yeah, the UFO faction within government is something that I find very interesting. Just the notion of that. I think some of the origin stories there go back to what's called the Collins Elite, which supposedly was a Christian group of guys, or I don't know, evangelical group or something. And you know, we talked about Bledsoe came up earlier, and it was on the table. You know, is he CIA or whatnot? I don't know. But I've listened to his accounts. I've listened to his son's accounts, who has his own podcast, and they do talk about how they've been around a lot of intelligence, like government people, various government peoples, NASA, CIA, etc. They all come out there and visit the Bledsoe Ranch or farm. And one of the things that the Bledsoes came to find is that there is a faction within government right now that is very much concerned with this, and they think it's an occult matter. And you'll hear these people talk about this guy, Tim Taylor, on all these podcasts. He's some sort of government guy who appears to be in control over a faction of UFO investigators who study the occult and believe that they're finding answers in the occult text for what's happening with the UFO phenomenon. I find that fascinating, that this is some of the same people who said that, who came to visit Bledsoe. According to him, Bledsoe said, he had his vision of the lady, and they found out about it, and they sent somebody out from the government, and the government said, yeah, we know who she is. What does she want? So I just wanted to touch on that, the UFO faction in government, and how I think they know that this is an occult thing.
Oh, they know 100%. All the Air Force, not Air Force bases, but all the space missions, they're named after gods and stuff like that. Where they launch the rockets, there's roads leading up to them that have the name of all gods. I'll tell you one thing that's really interesting, and then we'll finish this up. I live near El Segundo, which is like one of the aerospace capitals of the United States. You have all the military industrial complex there. You have the Air Force with Space Force. You have that's where SpaceX is there, Raytheon, Northrop Grumman, all that. But it's a little zoned out area, and there's two interesting streets on there that's right next to each other. One street's called ISIS, and one street's called Apollo, which is a direct reference to these gods. And what's really interesting, I went over one city over, and Boeing has a campus as well. And Boeing is down with the, space industry and stuff like that. So I dropped somebody off, and you know what I saw? There was an Apollo street right there. And I'm like, wait a minute, I'm going to search the streets around it. So I looked over, and right next to it was Saturn Way. So the government, yeah, I swear to God.
But I don't believe in space. I don't believe in space is what they tell us.
Exactly. But what I'm saying is the quote unquote space industry, the military industrial complex, knows exactly what these aliens are. And they tell you in their symbols.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that shit's crazy, dude. I did see a couple questions over here. Somebody was mentioning the second Exodus. You guys, obviously Ben's better with that. I mean, I would assume the second Exodus would be, I don't know what they're trying to do right now, where they're trying to get, Jews scared to go to Israel. You know what I mean? Now.
Yeah. I think he's actually asked me that question on one of my podcasts, and I didn't have an answer for that.
Yeah. I've never heard of that. Yeah. I never heard of that shit.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Apparently there's like a lot of people are getting out of there. Trump has told a lot of people to get out of there. I have a trip coming up in a month and a half. I originally was going to Mexico. I was like, yo, dude, no. I'm not going to Mexico right now. I'm not trying, I fit a profile of someone, they're going to come get me. I don't know why. And bad things happen to me. So I was like, we're not going to Mexico. So going to Puerto Rico instead should be nice, man. Gentlemen, guys, thank you so much. Tim, where can everyone support you, man, and check out your show?
Cool. Thanks again, Stephen. It's fun. Guys, this was great. I'm among friends. I consider all you guys friends. Andrew, I just met you, but you're in too.
We're boys. We're boys, dog. We're boys.
Yeah. So yeah, you can find me at Sixth Sensory Podcast. I spelled out SIX, Spotify, YouTube, Apple, Instagram, and Patreon. Thanks again, Stephen.
Yeah, bro. Yeah. Much love, man.
Much love.
All right, Ben.
You can find me at End of the World News on Instagram, or End of the Worlds with an S News, all one word, on YouTube. And yeah, thank you, Stephen, for bringing this group together. This has been truly a blessing and a blast. Anytime I can get together with fellow Christians and believers to talk about the weird stuff, I cherish it. They say wherever two or more gathered in their name, he is present. So I think he is here. And shout out to the group chat. I definitely like Nephilim Hunter, Dunt, R. Reezy. I think I'm saying that name right, but everybody, you definitely have a great group of followers. And let's just live in spirit.
Yeah, dude. No, they're awesome, man. They're awesome. All right, brother. How about you, man? Where can they check out your show and support you, man?
Everywhere you get your listening material, you'll find 6G Agenda. So go check us out. We do have a Patreon. You can get all videos, etc. But we do a lot of live shows on YouTube, so that's a great place to go find us. And I saw some familiar faces over in the chat. Shout out to everybody. Thanks for the love. And we'll have to get this going again sometime, man. I really appreciate you, Steven. That was really great coming on.
Yeah, no, this is a pretty good group. This is like all-star group, in my opinion, man. So banger, man. Thank you guys, everyone. If you're still with us and you want to support the shows, be sure to go to the channels, go get out there, do something that's free, and subscribe to everything, like, share, comment, all that stuff, folks. And check us out on audio platforms, please. And reviews help the shows get out there. And again, it's free. So all right, everybody, this was a good show. Thank you guys again. And we'll have to do it again very soon.
Anytime.
All right, till next time.